All right, good morning, everybody. We're back in the Beis Medrash for one more day. One day at a time. A guy that comes to the shiur, his son has COVID, so he's in quarantine, and it's starting to get closer and closer. It's closing in on us, slowly but surely. Chas v'shalom. Not surely, but slowly. Today's email is from Yossi Klein from Superior Plumbing. He sponsored yesterday. He says, "Hi. I'd like to help out in the Siyum, any arrangements. I'm from Muncie. I'm here to help out." He was thinking to advertise in the local papers, community, connotation, Muncie Views, etc., to get more people on Zoom or the app, etc. If it's possible to get some sort of literature, I'll send it out and maybe post it in all the shuls. Starting Eruvin. Well, we don't start Eruvin, we start today. That's how we do it. We advertise in the middle of a Masechta, in the middle of a Daf, so we don't have to wait till Eruvin. We just have to get you some sort of advertising material. All right, so that's what we're going to do, Be'ezer Hashem. Just turn the base. Yeah, okay, better. So, talking about the Siyum, I'm very excited to announce that we have a unbelievable Siyum coming up. This is going to outdo everything else. This Siyum that we discussed is basically a Zoom Siyum where it's going to be one of a kind, the first time ever, we think, that all of Klal Yisrael from all over the world, from the most exotic places ever, are all going to be mishtatev in one Siyum at one time. So it's going to be led by someone here in Bet Shemesh, let's say. Not all over the world. No. Once again, Nachman Seltz is wrong in public. I feel bad for him. They saw the Sima Shas from New York. Great. But you in your living room, nobody saw you. And over here, everybody's going to see you in your living room. It's going to be one of a kind, as I said. Don't do this, Nachman. Okay, let me explain again. I guess you didn't understand, so let me explain again. Well, he doesn't understand. He doesn't chab yet.
You know they had screens up in the Siyum, right? You know they had it, right?
Yeah, they showed one Siyum. So it's like us transmitting Ramat Bet Shemesh to South Africa. Well, we're trying to... Let me explain. Nachman, let me explain. And when you understand, you'll tell me. But I hope you ask Mechila afterwards. And you get up here and you know what? Get over here of trying to contradict something you don't even understand. You know what? Motzi Shabbos, we're going to have 4 people in this Beis Medrash, not 5. You got that, Noam. I see you like that. Especially people that don't wear masks over their nose. So, it goes like this. Let me explain why it's one of a kind. And it is one of a kind. Every location is going to have a Zoom camera. So let's say we're going to have South Africa. We're going to have Muncie from Yossi Klein. He's going to be in charge of Muncie, of his location. In South Africa, let's say we're going to have Leon Welcher. We're going to have in London, and we're going to have Manchester. We're going to have Australia, because Ezra Abram said he wants to do Australia. And we're going to have LA, Malibu. Probably David Hagal is not going to be asking to host, but we'll see. We'll try to convince him. We have Texas. We have Baltimore. Bekitzer. In every place, we're going to have a camera. And the camera is going to show that crew. Let's say it's 10 people per Siyum. And every Siyum is going to have one person designated, first of all, to lead the Siyum. It's going to be in his house or his shul. He's going to organize it. It doesn't mean the cost is on him. They'll share the cost in that location, but he'll organize it. We'll give him some help, some background help. There'll be a camera instead of focused on one person like now, and now on the Zoom, it's not going to say Yossi, it's going to say Montreal. It's going to say Australia. So it's going to be unbelievable. On the screen, you're going to see different countries, different cities, different things. And from each place, we're going to have one speaker speak, let's say, for 3 minutes, depending on the amount of places that we have and depending if they agree to speak. Lev could speak in South Africa, let's say. He'll give us his beautiful email again. Oh, the people love that email, Lev. So, and like this, and then we're going to get one international recognized speaker. We already have one that agrees to come on. Maybe we'll get somebody else. Maybe a shtickle music. Maybe Nachman Seltzer will sing for us. Maybe he'll read us a story from one of his books. And like this, it's going to be unique. Now your masking is different? No, he says it's not. It's still, you cannot ever get him to be masking.
That's definitely different.
It's different. Oh! Is it one of a kind? Yes, it's one of a kind. Now, so that being said, now I only have one very long. Fine, Rabbi said, yeah.
We need to rent screens and have one screen for each location.
We should have a screen for each location in our. Ramat Bet Shemesh, we have to figure out what to do. We might have different locations in Ramat Bet Shemesh, and Noam agreed that he'll go from location to location to visit each location, so they don't feel left out. Okay. I just want to say this real quickly. We're starting. We're almost finished with this parak, and we're running out of time. I got a couple of emails and very important stuff about Amir La'akim, because I was very adamant. Amir La'akim. So I got one email from Isi Ben Zaken who says, well, I wasn't accurate. That yes, it's usher to tell a guy, and it's usher to have enough from a guy, but in certain situations, like if there's a sick person, etc., etc. I did mention that in this year. I said, I'm not talking about sick people, I'm not talking about I'm talking about a typical case. Fine. And he also mentioned this unbelievable program that he and Jonathan Stefansky go to, and I forgot what it was called here. I'm not going to read this whole SCP. So if you guys are into halacha, everybody swears by this program of halacha. It's an amazing program. Fine. Another big Talmud Chacham who says that he's a Rav and he did all these halachas also pointed out that if there's a light on, let's say in another room coming from the kitchen and you could eat, just this adds more light, then you're allowed to sit there. But if you can't read a paper, you can't read a sefer, and it adds that much light, then it's us. Okay, fine. I'm not going into the details. The idea was maybe we should have a Rav come here and give us a drush, or give us we said this by Atmana, we're saying this by Amir La'akim as well. Point is, when I spoke to my cleaning lady, I asked her, where did you go last week with that guy? She said, I went to turn on his blech. That's what she said. I was like, how could you turn, I don't know how you can turn on a blech unless there's a chayla there, unless there's this. You have to, that's what I'm saying. People might not know the halacha that well. So before you talk to a guy to turn on your light, be very careful, learn the halacha as well, etc. Okay. Today's sponsor, I don't know who it is though. They didn't say who it is.
Eli.
Yeah.
Eli. If somebody wants to be a representative for the student, they should be in touch.
Right. Okay, anything else I have to mention? If somebody wants to be a representative and wants to represent his city, his place, be in touch with Noam through dafbrama.com, and we might do it on Zoom. We got a beautiful email from somebody that has another system that's even better than Zoom, more professional, in-out. So that's that. Today's shir is being sponsored in honor of Reb Eli giving such an amazing, terrible shir, and of course to the people behind the scenes that make the shir happen: Gary, Yeshua, Yosef, Noam, and everyone else. May you all be zocheh to continue spreading Torah through Klal Yisrael, both in person and virtually. Who is it? If it's not a person, then I don't believe that somebody said. Maybe Yosef wrote it himself. Okay, but it's somebody. He hasn't done that to me yet, so it's somebody. Says we are holding Daf Kuf Chof Hey Amud Beis. That's who it is. Sponsored by Benjamin Schwartz, the guy that sent me the beautiful fan. Yishkoach, I see Ben Schwartz. He's in the middle of my Zoom screen. Okay, here we go. Zmayra Shikshura. So yesterday we learned this amazing Mishnah. We have a vine, and it's tied to some pitcher, some pail. Says the Gemara, Kshura in, like Kshura lai. So it says in the Mishnah that if the vine is tied, then you could use it. Otherwise, a vine is muktzah, it's just a branch. Leima masnisin like Reb Shimon Gamliel. So this is the big Reb Shimon Gamliel. We're going to be discussing on and off today. The Sanya, Chariya shel dekel shegadron le'etzim. You have a bunch of branches, palm branches. You know, like that the stuff you use for schach, let's say. Shegadron le'etzim. You wanted to use it for just wood, like firewood, fuel. What is that? That's muktzah. V'nin lach aleim li'yeshiva, and you wanted to make it in the chair, na muktzah. Tzarech likshor, you have to do a maisa, you have to tie it in order. So that was a continuation of what we had yesterday. Tie it, not tie it, make a maisa, not a maisa. Reb Shimon Gamliel omer, ein tzarech likshor. You don't have to tie it. What is it? You just do it in your mind. With your mind, you can flip a switch and make it from muktzah to non-muktzah. So why is it over here? So the Gemara has a question. Why is it over here? By the vine, you have to tie it to the pail. See? Yoni ties it nicely to the pail. Why does it have to be tied? Says the Gemara. Woo! This vine is still it's growing grapes. It's still attached to the ground. Well, that's another problem. You can't climb up a tree. You can't lean on a tree. You can't do anything with a tree. You might come to take something off a tree. So if it's mechuber, it's asur anyways to use. Says the Gemara Lamatim Shloisha. We're talking about below 3 tfachim, and there's no isur of using the mechuber. Rav Ashi Omar afilu tema betlusha. We're talking about it is detached. Gzeiro shema yiktaim. We're concerned, since this vine is very soft, and if it's not strung on properly, so you're going to have some leftover vine. What are you going to do? You have a pail with all this vine sticking out. It's going to get in the way. You're going to snip it off. And that's a problem of, it's already detached, so it's not toilish. So what's the problem? Makeh bepatish. Kaka chaloin, going on to a new sugya. Kaka chaloin, a shutter for a window. Here we go, the shutter. Now you see Yoni's picture. It shows you one shita, that it's hanging in the air and it's tied by a rope. Yeah? That was Rebbe Eliezer's shita in the Mishnah. Omar Rabbi Chana, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Hakol moedim shein oisin oyel ari batchila b'yontav. Bein tzorch loymar b'Shabbos. Talking about an oil, creating a roof, a ceiling, a tent on Shabbos, even if it is temporary. Ein oisin oil arai betchila b'yontav ve'ein tzorch loymar b'Shabbos, and certainly not on Shabbos. So this happens all the time. You're making oil, you're creating your oil. For instance, on Simchas Torah, you take a talus and you spread it over people. That is oil on Yontif. Allowed or not allowed? Obviously, we do it in shul, so it's allowed. Why? So over there it's different because people are holding it with their hand. But the same idea, the same talus, not held by hands. Let's say you get weak, you don't like going like this, so you just hang it on something. That's a problem. That's also on Yontif and certainly on Shabbos. Another good example is, let's say it's raining and you want to put like a cover over the stroller that your baby shouldn't get wet from the rain. That's oil. Now, what it is mutter, sometimes like that, you know that on the top of the stroller you have the thing that goes over for the sun. So, I don't know, I didn't even look it up, but this is going to be a sugi later on. This is similar to it, this thing on the top. So if it has a tefach, that's the shear. If it's a tefach already, and that's what we're going to see in a second, it already has oil, so then you could extend the oil. Moisifin. Says the Gemara, what about adding? So when it comes to the window, so the oil that we're talking about is the oil on top, a ceiling. There is no oil on a vertical wall. That's not oil. So the machlokes, Rebbe Lezer says, you don't add on Yontif, vein tzarich loymar b'Shabbos. V'chachamim oimrim, moisifim b'Shabbos, vein tzarich loymar b'Yontif. You are permitted, once you have something going, you're allowed to add more. And certainly, you could add on Yontif. You could add on Shabbos, you could add on Yontif. So, the problem with a pkak chaloin is that it looks like you are building. It looks like you're building. You're adding to the wall, and it looks, so in terms of, there's no problem of oil on a wall. The problem is more binyan. We're not talking about a ceiling. We're talking about the wall. That's the issue.
What about little kids? They take the couch pillows and make a fort out of it, a plank. They can't. That's also done.
Yeah. True. It's not just kids. I have somebody above bar mitzvah that likes to do that. We had to have a little shmooze with him. What?
Still a kid.
He is. Yeah. He's a good kid. Oh, maybe that's why they didn't accept him to yeshiva. Fine. Zog the Gemara. So let's look at the top of the page. Top of the Amud, Daf Kuf Chof Hei Amud Beis, where we turned it yesterday, B'schus, official. So, hold on a second. Do we have your grandfather here? Oh, Ezra Abrams is here from Australia. Beautiful. We were just talking about you. They're on Kornbluth, Steve, Lauren, all the guys. Seder. So it says on top of the Mishnah, second line down. He says two things. You need it to be tied. You need a chain coming out of the shutter attached to the wall. Not only that, the shutter cannot be on the ground. You can't put the weight of the shutter on the ground. It has to be dangling in the air. Why? Because that shows me that it's part of the window. You're not about to build here. You're just moving it over into the window and you're closing up the window. If it's on the ground, I might think that you're building. People might say, hey, look, he's filling up a window. Says the Gemara, and what about Chachamim? Come Chachamim, and they say, the Chachamim in the Mishnah, ben kach u ben kach poikikim boy. Regardless, whether this or this, you could fill up the window. Now, what are they saying exactly? Are they talking about the fact that the shutter is tied? Or they're talking about the fact that the shutter is hanging in the air or not hanging in the air? Says the Gemara, my bein kach u bein kach. Which one is it? Omer Reb Abba, Omer Reb Kahana, bein kashur, bein shoyini kashur. In other words, it's on the ground. Chachamim say it could be just like this. In this picture, here's a shutter, and it's on the ground, literally on the ground. Not tied, nothing, it's on the ground. So it's not tied. If it's not tied, it's obviously on the ground. The only way it could be hanging in the air if it's tied. In other words, he's saying the most kuladika way. The Chachamim argue minakatza lakatza to the other way. Not only does it not have to be hanging in the air, it doesn't even have to be tied at all. You could have a shutter sitting on the side, I pick it up, put it in. V'hu shemisukan. But there's one caveat there. There's one t'nai. You have to think about it in your head. You have to be mazmided and say, I want this to be my shutter. You can't just show up with a piece of wood from your sukkah and put it in your window. This has to be designated from before Shabbos as a shutter. Daf Kuf Chavav Amud Aleph. Amalei Rabbi Yirmiyah. V'lei mamar bein talui bein she'enu talui. V'hu shekashu. Says Rabbi Yirmiyah, why did you go all the way that far and say Chachamim argued that it doesn't even have to be connected? Maybe Chachamim hold it has to be connected with a chain, a rope, but it doesn't have to be hanging and dangling in midair. One of the two things they argue with Rebbe Eliezer, not on both. In fact, I'll prove to you there's a brisa that says that it must be attached. So we're going to go through a whole brisa now that proves to us that according to Rebbe Eliezer, it's dangling. According to Chachamim, it's attached with a rope. So why did you say it's not attached? And the Gemara is going to answer, you're right. This brisa says it's attached with a rope, but we have a second brisa that proves that it doesn't have to be attached with a rope. And that's going to take us to the bottom of Amud Aleph, which is not that long. It's a very short daf, Amud. Says the Gemara, the Omar Rabbi Baruch Chana Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rabbi Yochanan, ki machloikis kan, just like we have machloikis by a pkak, by the shutter, the windows in our Mishnah, kach machloikis beneger hanigror. So that's our Mishnah. Says Rabbi Yochanan, what's identical to that is the case of neger hanigror. What's neger hanigror? So, this is neger. This is the piece that goes vertically into the hole over here, and it's a latch, right? What is it called in English? This guy that goes into a door. We have it in the the sideway door here, like this. We're gonna have this later, like this guy. No, a latch. Like a deadbolt. Good. I like the deadbolt better. So it's a neger. Now, nigror, neger, hanigror. Nigror means that it's laying on the ground. It's not hanging. If it's hanging, it's more of the door. It shows it's part of the lock. But if it's on the ground, it's different. So if I could prove to you that in this case of Neger HaNigrar, that these guys must be, the whole machlokes is that they are tied. And if they're not tied, like in this case, you see there's another one laying here by itself, not tied. There's no machlokes, everybody agrees that it's muktzah. And Rabbi Yochanan says that that's exactly the same case as our shutter, that tells me that this brisa holds that it has to be tied. So why did you tell me, Rabbi Abba Omer of Kahana, that it doesn't have to be tied? So here's very interesting. Listen to this. If I take this bolt and I put it into the hole right here, what kind of Isser is it? The Rabbanon or the Oraisa? The Oraisa. Issa the Oraisa. I'm building. Put it in. Now, if it's part of the door, it shouldn't be Asr at all. But because it's Issa the Oraisa, if it's not part of the door, it's not hanging, so Rabbanon said, stop, don't do it. You know how to do it. That only applies in Brooklyn, in Bet Shemesh, but not in the Beis HaMikdash. Why not? Because there's no Gzeir D'Rabbanan in Beis HaMikdash. There can't be geyser things in Beis HaMikdash. So in Beis HaMikdash, I can use a dead belt. But in my house, I cannot use a dead belt. It's not a deraisa. It's a derabban. That's what I said. No, it's a deraisa if it's not attached. Start from beginning. If I take a deadbolt that's not attached to the door and I deadbolt my door, what? Okay. Says the Gemara, yeah, we're going to see it inside. It's not neger hanigro, no'elim boi b'migdosh avaloi b'medina. I could use it in the Beis HaMikdash and not in the countryside. V'hamunach kan v'kan asur. Munach, this guy that's just laying there, unattached to a door, I can't use it in the Beis HaMikdash. That tells me what? That it's a da'iraisa. In the Beis HaMikdash, if it was just the Issa D'Rabbanan, I would use it in the Beis HaMikdash. It's a da'iraisa to take a piece of metal and bolt it to the ground. That's baina. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, hamunach b'mikdash, if it's laying around, I'm allowed to. It's not muktzah. I could use it. I could use it in the Beis HaMikdash. V'hanigro b'medina. And I could also use a dangling one that's touching the ground, this guy, but it's with a rope, I could use it in the Beis HaMikdash. Avalai b'medina, no, sorry. I could use it in Medina. V'tanya, eiza nega nigror, what's considered? Nigror, shenoyel b'mikdash avalai b'medina, kol shekosher v'taloi v'roishoy megil ha'aretz. So it explains it straight out. If over here I don't have a good picture of it, it's even this case, even laying down. He's talking about that it's vertical, like this bolt is vertical. Just the one point of it is touching the ground, the rest is hanging in the air. But we're saying even if it's laying on the ground, you could use it midrabanan. I mean in the mikdash. Rabbi Yehuda Omer zeh av b'medina mutar. Rabbi Yehuda says if it's tied, I could use it at home. What's considered isur kol she'ein like kosher v'lei talui. If it's not tied at all, and you just put it on the side. Who's this one that says nega nigro? This whole halacha is Rebbe Eliezer. Who argues with the Rebbe Eliezer? The Chachamim from our Mishnah. But everybody agrees that it has to be tied. So why are you telling me that it's not tied? In other words, our Mishnah and Neger HaNigra are identical. And Neger HaNigra, there is no machlokes whether it's tied or not. It is tied. So therefore, in our Mishnah, by Kak Chaloin, by the shutter, it's also tied. It's just the question is it dangling in midair or is it touching the ground? That's the machlokes. Says Gemara Amalei, you're right. Good raya. I know the Armik Haitano, but I have another brisa. The Sanya, another brisa. This is a very similar case as Nega Nigra. Just it's a deadbolt. Like we're more familiar with these guys. Actually, no. That also you have like on sliding doors. You have these bolts that go down. Commercial doors, but this one a lot of people have in America, especially. You have a deadbolt that goes sideways or this way. If it's tied and it's part of the door, I could use it on Shabbos. But if it's not tied, not. Says Rabbi Gamliel that all I need to do is think about it in my mind. If I could think about it in my mind and say, this is for Shabbos, this is for my door, that's it. I could use it on Shabbos. And Memela says Rabbi Abba, that I hold like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, that you could be misaken in your mind, you could designate it in your head, and therefore, it doesn't have to be kosher, it doesn't have to be tied at all. If the shutter is not tied, I designate it in my mind, and that's it. It's mutter to use on Shabbos. Here we go. Mort Bloomberg. Shalom Aleichem. David Lacker. Let me just see who's here for a second. Anybody see Jonathan Stefansky lately? Mendy Auerbach. Oh, he's every single day. I just don't see his face. He's an Ister. Avram Ben Zev. John Badner. He's not playing basketball today, unfortunately. Givaldik. 110 people on. Okay, we're climbing. Rabbi said we're doing good. We're climbing slowly but surely. Mark Struhl. Who's the OU user? Who do you find out as OU user? Rabbi Grunberg from OU. Maybe he doesn't want us to know who he is. He lives in Arnov. You know him. Okay. Everybody knows him. Matti Grunberg. So why don't you show your face, Tzaddik? M&M Productions. Okay. Producer of A.B. Rothenberg. Wow. All right. Weiter. A lot of beautiful people there. David Handler and Akiva Rosenbaum. Gewaldig. Okay. Says the Gemara. Omer Rav Yehuda bar Shelas. We're holding 3 lines from the bottom. Daf Kuf Chavav Amud Aleph. We're getting ready to turn the Amud. Omer Rav Asi. Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. That I could designate something in my mind, says Rabbi Yochanan. Great. I don't need to tie it to the wall. All I say is, this is my shutter for Shabbos, this is my shutter forever, and I can use it on Shabbos. That's the Gemara. Did Rabbi Yochanan really say so? That Allah is like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? But it's not. And by the way, it's cheating a little bit, but in 5 minutes from now, we're going to have this in a Mishnah. If it has a handle, where's the handle? In case you don't know what it looks like. Here's a cover that has a handle. If it has a handle, if it has a handle, I can niton b'Shabbos. I can move it on Shabbos. And Yehuda bar Shelah Rav Asi says in the name of Yochanan, it has to be able to function as something. It can't just be a lid. The lid has to be able to do something, whatever, a chair or whatever you want to do with it. You play ping pong with it. It has to be some sort of other function. Oh. So what's the shaila? So how could I just designate something in my mind, according to Rabbi Gamliel? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, over here it says it has to be a kli. It can't just be something that I do in my mind. So this bolt, this neger, this thing, what could this possibly do? Look at this. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, this piece of metal that goes into the ground, if I designate in my mind, I say this is for Shabbos, that's it. But what can I do with it? Oh, so maybe I could do something, says the Gemara. I can mix something, I could break a nut with it, I could do something with it. Says the Gemara, but in fact, he doesn't require it. You can't force it on him. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, these are the branches, the palm branches, that you decided they're for a fence, which is muktzah. And you decided that you want to make it into a chair. You have to tie it. What can you do with a palm branch? Nothing. So a palm branch, you're not gonna be mfatzeach egoism. It's not strong enough to break a thing. What are you gonna do with it? And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says you don't have to do anything. As long as in your mind you decided, you designated it for something mutter, it's mutter. Says the Gemara, you're right. Rabbi Yochanan is going to hold like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel in one of the two. In other words, he's going to hold that with your mind I could designate something, even if it's not attached. So the bolt, I could designate a muktzah bolt in my mind that I could use it and touch it on Shabbos because I designated it for the door. And he says, no, you need it to be a kli. You can't just designate a bolt. You can't designate a rock, let's say, on Shabbos to bolt your door, according to Rabbi Yochanan, because a rock doesn't serve a purpose. There's no purpose. Right now, I'm going to bolt the door with it. That's not a kli. Rav Shimon Gamliel, on the other hand, says two things. First of all, I can do it with my mind. Second of all, it doesn't have to be kli. It could be even a rock. So Rabbi Yochanan will say in this case, if I could do something with it, I could break something, I could stir something, great. But if I can't, let's say it's rusty and I don't want to put it, so then I cannot designate it with my mind because it's not a kli. Rabbi Yochanan says it has to be a kli in order to designate. Rabbi Yitzchak stood there by the door of the Reish Golus. Halacha k'Rebbi Eliezer. Halacha is like Rebbe Eliezer. That what? I need two things. I need it to be tied. I need this, whatever it is, the neger and the shutter. I need them to be tied and hanging. Two things. They can't be dragging on the floor. Mazar of Amram umidivreim lamadu. So this is very interesting. The last Mishnah in our Masechta. Bezer Hashem Rabbi Yisai. 30 days from now. A month. We have a month to prepare this and knock it out of the ballpark. And Rabbi Yisai, I'm telling you, Nachman Seltzer is going to get up. He's going to speak by us and he's going to say, this is the most unique siyum that ever existed. More unique than the entire siyum of Shas. That's when he's going to do tshuva. Masav Rav Amram. Okay, here go the text from Yeshua to Noam. We need to get the watches and we need to fix the this. Okay, that's with him, not with me. And certainly not during this year. There's 10 and a half minutes and 500 tenths of a second. There's tenths of a second also here. Unbelievable. Mazar Rav Amram, the last mission in the Masechta says that what happened was there was tum in a room. A mace shahaya, the Mishnah says. There was a mace. So they took a kli cheres, they took a thing, a vessel, and they put it into the window, stuffed up the window on Shabbos, so that the tumah shouldn't leave. So we learn from this, shepoikikim, that you could close up a window, a moidedim, and you could measure a mikvah, v'kaishirim, b'Shabbos, and you can do a kaishish and fine. So what's the problem? So you see from here that it doesn't have to be tied. They took this wasn't tied. On Shabbos, they took this guy and they put it in the window. Rebbe Lezer says, in order to stuff up a window, Yiddish, it has to be tied and it has to be hanging. This is not tied and not hanging neither. Says the Gemara, what's your big bomb question from Daf Kuf Nun Zayin Omid Aleph, last page, last Daf in Masechta Shabbos? Because that Mishnah has no names. Anonymous Mishnah. And if it has no name, the halacha is like it. Oh, Neger HaNigra Nami Stamihi. So Rebbe Lezer is going to go like Neger HaNigra Mishnah, which is also anonymous. We keep passing like that Mishnah as well. Says Gemara, no. Va'afilu hachi ma'aser Rav. That Mishnah, because it comes with a story is the most powerful thing, because not only did the Tana paskin like that, and maybe he wasn't 100% sure, but he passed like that, he actually acted upon its psak. And once you act upon a psak, it's ma'aser Rav. I just brought this. The person who has Corona, now a shir, gave this to me as a present, so I thought in his chus. This is ma'aser Rav, of course, the sefer on the Vilna Gaon, on the Gra. It's called ma'aser Rav because it says here, this is what the Gaon did, this is what the Gaon did, the whole thing. Anyway, ma'aser Rav, that's where it comes from, this name. Says the Mishnah. We just had this. If you have a kli that has a handle, then you could carry it. If it's there to, where's that picture? To cover the ground. Like similar to this picture, covers the ground. However, if it's a kli, it's a pot, you don't need a handle. It's not muktzah. Now, if it's covering the ground, we're going to see, if it's covering the ground, I need a handle. Why do I need a handle? Because I'm saying, if I don't have a handle, it looks like I'm covering the ground. I'm doing baina. I'm fixing a hole. There's no time for the story in your book about me and the hole in the ground. It's a great story, but not now. I have to find a different time for it. What?
Buy the book in the link below.
You could buy the book. I don't remember which book it is. One of his books is a story about me falling into a sewer, into a cesspool when I was 3 years old. So this piece of whatever it's covering, it has to be able to function as a kli. Says the Gemara like this: the kula alma kisukakais. If it's something that covers the ground, I got to say this joke. There's a joke from official Schechter. I have no idea how he related. If somebody knows how it relates to any Yiddishkeit thing, great. There's a guy that was jumping on a kisukakais on a manhole. He was jumping up and down with such simcha, and he was screaming, 7, 7, 7. So a guy comes over and he says, what are you screaming? He says, what do you mean what are you screaming? Come, jump on this and you'll see. So the guy starts jumping. I don't see. He says, you must be from those guys that doesn't see. You know what? I'm going to open it up, go inside and jump inside. You'll be able to see. So the guy goes in. And then after he goes in, he covers it, and he goes on time, he goes, 8, 8, 8. Fine. I have no idea what the shaykh is. Whatever. One of those jokes. The kula amakisikakois im yeshlam beis achizo in iloi loi. If it has a cover, I got the blank stare again from Nachman by the joke, by the way. No, I'm going to talk to you afterwards about it. All right. Im amakisikakois beis achizo in iloi loi. So it.
You're only seeing the top portion of his nose.
No. I could see. I could see his smile. All right. Like I said, we gotta change. Rabbi said we're doing a change of guards. Be'ez Hashem, Motzei Shabbos, he doesn't come anyways on Shabbos. Change of guards. We're looking for a fifth guy. Anybody asking to come in here during Corona? Number 5. Smile at all jokes. Pretend they're funny. Don't contradict me when I talk about my siyum. Says the Gemara, Beis achizu in iloi loi. If it's a cover for karka and it has a handle, great. If not, you cannot touch it. Kisya kelim, and if it's a cover for a pot, let's say afagav de ein lem beis achiza, it doesn't need a beis achiza. Keep pleaging. So, in other words, the lid of a pot is not muktzah at all. What do I need a handle? I don't need a handle. Keep pleaging bekelim de chabrinu ba'ara. If I take a pot and put it into the ground, that is my big problem. Mar sover gazrinon, or mar sover le gazrinon. Do I say a pot is similar to a pit? This needs a handle 100%. A bar and a dus need a handle, and a pot looks like a bar because it's in the ground or not. Lishna achrina, according to Tosfos, there's no difference. According to other Rishonim, there's a major difference. Ki pligi b'kisi tanur. Same idea. You have a tanur. The ovens were those days are attached to the ground. Mar medamele lekisu karka. Some say since it's attached to the ground, it needs a handle. Or mar medamele lekisu kelim, it doesn't need a handle. Hadrun aloch kala kelim. Hadrun aloch kala kelim. Hadrun aloch kala kelim. We're starting, Rabbi saying, you're not going to believe this. The 18th perek in Masechta Shabbos. 18. It's not a joke. I love Masechta Shabbos, and by the way, Masechta Eruvin is just as much fun. Seriously, it's unbelievable. This Masechta, I'm going to miss it a lot. We got a chaparayim, 30 more days, unbelievable. The Mishnah now is not talking about muktzah. The Mishnah is talking about tircha, about exerting yourself on Shabbos too much. You're not allowed to start carrying stuff on Shabbos, even if it's not muktzah. Yet, this is a little bit raw. This picture, I didn't have that much time to work on it. For a dvar mitzvah, if I'm going to have Talmidei Chachamim come and learn in my house and have a bunch of straw in the guest room, I'm allowed to start emptying out my room. How much? Arba v'chomesh, 4 or 5 boxes full. A box, approximately 3 saw, let's say. Shel teven v'shel tfua mipnei ha'orchim, because I have guests. In the Shulchan Aruch, if you look in Siman, Shin, Lamed Gimel, the Ramah over there says that a ireach is not like we have today typically. Oh, you want to come for a meal and your best friends come over. That's not a ireach. A ireach is somebody that sleeps over, somebody that doesn't have a place to sleep. That's an ireach, or to eat. But stam, because you're being nice to your friend and he invites you next week, and that's not a ireach. That doesn't apply here. Orchim for a mitzvah. B'nei bittul beis hamedrash, mitzvah. You cannot start undoing your storehouse. All that stuff is muktzah. Mifanim truma tahira. Now, if you have truma, you put aside a truma, which is approximately, let's call it 2% of your produce. Depends how giving you are. Udemai, and even if you buy stuff from an Amaretz, you don't know if he took trumas and meisers. He most likely did. So the fruit is not tamei and not muktzah, so I can move it. Umaiser rishain, and that's the 10% that you give to the Levi. After you take off the truma, you take 10%, but you already set it aside for the Levi. Not muktzah. Shenitla trumasai. Why is it not muktzah? Because the Levi already took his 10% of your 10%, so it's completely not muktzah. But if it didn't have nitla trumasai, it's muktzah. It's not edible. This food is not edible because the Levi didn't do what he needed to do. Right now we're talking about things that are not muktzah. That's why I can move it out of my storage, out of my room, out of my guest room. Don't you love when you go to a guest and then they start schlepping out stuff out of the room? You go somewhere and it's like, let me take all the tevin out of here. I got a bunch of straw. Let me start cleaning up the room. U'maisa sheni, we're going to learn. You have to leave a little bit on the floor. Yeah.
If it's not muktzah, what's the concern? Please?
The concern, like that's what I said in the beginning of the Mishnah. Tircha, exerting yourself on Shabbos, working hard on Shabbos. That's the problem. So if it's not muktzah, it's not for dvar mitzvah. You have no business schlepping boxes on Shabbos. It's not a question of muktzah. It's a question of oinik Shabbos, of resting and not and being like HaKadosh Baruch Hu kaviyachol. Mahu this, just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu rested on Shabbos, we also rest on Shabbos. U'maiser sheni. So maiser sheni, the famous maiser sheni, on year 245, you give off a maiser sheni. You have to bring it to Yerushalayim. Better yet, you could redeem it into money and bring the money to Yerushalayim, and you have to buy food, the hegdish, and also hegdish, the shenivdu. So if it's redeemed, now the fruit is not muktzah. Vaturmas hayovesh, we had those beans, the turmas beans. Shuhu machal, it's not muktzah. Shu machalizim, I could give it to a goat. Avalois tevel. Now we're going to go through a whole list of things that are muktzah. Tevel. In other words, I didn't take the truma off. Velois ma'aser rishon, and that, everything we just said, but in the muktzah part. Ma'aser rishon, shaloi nidlo truma asai. I took the 10% off, but the Levi didn't take 10% from my 10%. Muktzah. Velois ma'aser sheni v'egda shaloi nivdu, and the fruit that I have to bring to Yerushalayim, I cannot eat them here. I have to bring to Yerushalayim. Muktzah. Velois haluf, a type of bean. Velois chardal, not edible stuff. I can't even give it to my animal. It's not edible. Rav Shimon Gamliel matir baluf mepnei shu machal orvim. So Rav Shimon Gamliel, 18 seconds left. Rav Shimon Gamliel says that I could use this loaf if I have a raven. In those days, ravens were, I just actually saw, somebody sent me a clip, ravens could actually mimic sounds. Very cool bird. Not so cool if they live here in your porch and they attack you, but it was a cool bird then. So rich people, says Rashi, had it. Wealthy people had it. Chavili kash. It comes with an alarm. It's a back timer with an alarm. I got it. Okay, we got a few lines here for Shabbos. Chavili kash, chavili eitzim, chavili zrodim. These are muktzah, a bunch of straw and reeds and all this stuff. Miskinon lamachal behema matalteloisam. If they were set aside for animals, you could carry them on Shabbos. Lav ein metalteloisam. Frek the Gemara. What's this 4 and 5? Every time the Mishnah says something like that, we have to jump in and ask a question. Usually. 4 or 5, just say 5. Why 4? Tremendous chiddush. If your room, your guest room, has 5 bundles worth of straw, you can only remove 4. You must leave 1. Because if I get to the bottom of the floor, in the entire area, I might be mashvegumos. I might build by... Does it have a snooze, by the way, that thing? The V'chamich ma'itzer gadol. Now, if it's a very large place, the maximum I can take out is 5. Why? Tircha. More than 5, I don't allow you even for a mitzvah. Umay avo loy esa oitzer shlo yadcha ba'oitzer tchila. If you have a storehouse, you're not allowed to even take 1 out. Why? Umani Rabbi Yehudi, this like muktzah. Because Rabbi Yehuda holds to the concept of migud iskatzoi leben hashmosha iskatzoi likuyo. So you have a warehouse. What are you doing with this? You're going to sell it next year. Today is not edible because I don't intend to eat it. I intend to sell it. I intend to do other stuff with it. So if I never thought about it, says Rabbi Yehuda, that's muktzah. Muktzah on Erev Shabbos makes a muktzah for the entire Shabbos. Ushmuel Amar arba v'chomesh keda amri inchi. By the way, when we turned the page to Daf Kuf Chavav Amud Beis, was sponsored by Fischl. I don't know if I said it. Keda amri inchi. Why does the Mishnah say 4 or 5? Because that's how people talk. 4 or 5. We're not trying to teach you a lesson here from the words. We're just talking the way people talk. There's no limit. You can do even more. So why can't you take out of the storehouse? You can remove the entire storehouse, 100 bundles if you want. The halacha is that you shouldn't finish it all. Because maybe you'll come, once you see the floor, you'll say, you know what, it's not nice for the guest to have a bump in the ground, let me straighten it out. That's baina. Aval atchuli matchli, you're allowed to start. Umani, Rabbi Shimoni, the lessening muktzah. Rabbi Shimon, who doesn't hold the muktzah. Again, what does it mean? Let's not confuse this. Not that he doesn't hold the muktzah. There's no such thing. Everybody holds a muktzah. He's relaxed in muktzah, and he doesn't hold of this migadis katzoi business. He says, it's food. It's beautiful. I could use it Erev Shabbos. So what if I didn't intend to? I'm intending to do it now on Shabbos. Memela, it's not muktzah. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Motzi Shabbos at 9:30. And Sunday morning at 7:15. Think about this, Siyum. Think about if you want to help us out. Think about how to get more people on Zoom. And have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos. Shir HaMalois. For the very last time from Nachman Seltzer, the Bismedr, Shir HaMalois. Yeah, this is. Go, Nachman, go. Go, no, say Shir HaMalois. Go. I'm not threatening. I'm telling you a fact. Let's go. No, go. No. It better be a good one. A beautiful rendition.
Some people say refuah shalem.
Oh, wait, time. We're saying Tehillim, the refuahs, Ephraim Friedman, who's with us every day on Zoom. His wife is a Hava Basmalto Chadra, the refuah shlema. Go.
Kim khas de kholmati vorei ki vizi adira gizo nafshi bil vorei khaldi nafshi adira gizo na bayge shemrim na bayge akhri zodan adina gimadre khazde babay mafdos vi dez azikar vay naisa